It's a little after 8:30. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order for the January 2015 meeting of the City of San Angelo Development Corporation. Before we get started, I would like to ask Mr. Barrio to lead us in a word of prayer.
If you would bow with me, please. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in this fine city. Thank you for all of the blessings that you shower on us. Lord, we ask, as we always do, that you continue to bless this land with rain. We also ask for economic prosperity for all who conduct business here. We ask that they do it in a good and sound way, one that is good and pleasing to you. As we meet, we consider, we decide, we hear these issues before this board. Open our eyes and ears that we will hear and see exactly what needs to be done and follow your guidance in all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. All right, at this time I will open the floor for public comment. The board takes public comment on all items in the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at the appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the board at this time. The board may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. Is there any public comment? Looks like there is none. We will move to our consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review those items?
Move approval consent
Second.
agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Hebert, second by Mr. Crisp. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, regular agenda. First item, consideration of approving the December 2014 financial statements and any action thereto. Ms. Rebecca Tambunga, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Okay, the December financials. On page 1, we have the executive summary. Our unreserved fund balance on the economic development side is at $7.4 million. And on the ballot side, we're at $2.5 million. Sales tax for the month of December, we received almost $790,000. That was up 20.7% compared to last December. Year to date, we are in excess of $484,000. For the economic development side, we have the balance sheet. Our assets, cash and investments at $9.3 million. Sales tax receivable of almost $452,000, and our fixed assets sitting at $3.3 million. For the fund equity designated for economic development projects, which we'll take a look at the breakdown on page 5, that's committed at $2.3 million. Reserved for those fixed assets are $3.3 million, bringing us to that unreserved fund balance on the economic development side of $7.4 million. Revenue and expense report for the economic development side. Our revenues, of course, our main source of revenue being the sales tax, we received almost $301,000. On the expenditures, we did have some activity for the air service marketing project, totaling $8,690, as well as the remaining portion of our compliance audit at $2,500. Other than that, we just had some routine activity. We were revenue over expenditures of $279,000. Page 5 is the breakdown of those economic development projects. Again, air service marketing project being the only project having activity this year of $58,000, bringing that commitment down to $2.3 million. For the ballot side, on the balance sheet, we have our assets of cash and investments of a little over $5 million, sales tax receivable at $1.1 million. On the fund equity, we have a designation for affordable housing of $294,000, and a designation for voter-approved projects of $3.3 million. That brings that ballot side unreserved fund balance to $2.5 million. The revenue and expense report for the ballot side. Revenues, core sales tax revenue, receiving almost $772,000, and the expenditures, the only activity was for the reclaimed water alternative projects, totaling almost $19,000. So we were revenue over expenditures of $752,000. Pages 8 is the ballot project breakdown. We do have a commitment for sports facility maintenance as well as affordable housing. Total commitment for those projects is $562,000. Pages 9 through 12 give you some of the transaction detail by accounts. And then the remaining pages of 13 through 16 are those voter approved projects. We did have some activity this month on those projects, mainly being the Texas Bank Sports Complex and the Concho River. And that kind of concludes the December financials. Yes, sir.
One question. You show sales tax as a receivable. How do you know how much sales tax to put in there as a receivable? Does the comptroller put out a report of how much was collected in a certain month, and then you show that on your sheet as a receivable?
No, sir. We do a projection, like a 4-year projection, basing off of what we actually received the last 4 years to kind of project what we expect to receive for that month, and then we adjust it as we actually receive the money.
So for right now, that's an estimate.
Yes,
of
sir.
what we're going to get from December.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
Make a motion, we approve the financials as presented.
Second. Call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
All right, we will be skipping item number 4. Mr. Salas had a scheduling conflict, so that item will be rescheduled for next month. Item number 5, presentation and update regarding fiscal year 2014-15 first quarter report by the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development. We have Mr. Michael Looney with us this morning.
Good morning.
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 Thanks for having me up. Just wanted to kind of start the year off with a look back on 2014 and some of the accomplishments of the last quarter. Rounding it out, a couple things we've done. One of the mandates that we've had is to take the chamber function, marketing and recruitment, and combine it with the office at the BRC. And we've done that, although there had been an office there before. Chamber and BRC, we worked out an agreement and an arrangement to where I would spend basically half the week there and half the week at the Chamber Visitor Center, both really important places to be found. So it's really helped a lot just with team cohesiveness and collaboration on a lot of different projects that I think you're going to start to see the results, the fruits of that relationship bearing out very, very soon. So just wanted to let everybody know that that is in full force, and it's working out extremely well. Of course, we're also working really closely with Downtown San Angelo, Inc., Dell's organization, and Mike and Kathy at Concho Valley Workforce. So kind of looking at companies that have come in that we're working with from out of state. And if you ever want me to stop and elaborate on any of these points, just stop me and let me know. But I just kind of want, in the interest of time, just kind of go over it as quickly as we can. Been doing a lot of outreach to companies that we know are related to some of the initiatives that are coming online. Namely, one of them is the Prop 1 highway construction and refurbishment that's going to begin in earnest this year. We're working right now with a heavy equipment company that's based out of state. I'll put it to you that way. They manufacture and assemble really, really heavy earth-moving equipment, cranes and bridge-building equipment. So they're going to be coming on in. They've already done one tour, and they're going to come in another week or two for a secondary site tour. It's looking pretty positive. We are working also with a contact center and an artisanal organic dairy food producer, and these are all based out of state. Inside the region, we're working with a brokerage firm. Some of you may know about it. It would be approximately 5 people initially, and then it would move up to approximately 10 to 12 by the end of the year if all goes according to plan. It's a real low-impact user, and they would be employing local people, and the salary structure and the commissions are very, very strong. And then we're also working with a full-service home builder and contractor. They've apparently got the word that there's some need for more housing in the area, and they are coming in from outside of the region. When it comes to business retention and expansion, that's also another really big point that we help COSA DC with, although COSA DC is the lead. we always keep our radars on, looking for opportunities for us to help our own community companies and employers. We have had a number of meetings, which I'm sure that Roland and Bob will elaborate on, but we've met with our partners on a regular basis just to make sure that they're schooled in how to listen for opportunities and what to bring up during these conversations with these local companies, and make sure that they're qualified and that they don't overstate or underrepresent what the BREP program can do. As far as the industrial park, kind of an update on that. There's an aerial shot. The Chamber has had all of the UAV flights of the park, roadways, and the region, the area surrounding it, overflown. We're now in the process of getting all of the digital images edited and narrated. And what this is going to be about a 10-minute film that you can stop and start as you want to look at different parts of the park, and it will provide information and give good aerial views of what parcels are available. And this is going to be a micro link that's going to link up with the website that's going to be designed. It's in the process of being worked on for the park itself, so it'll become a little micro website standalone. And that's really handy so that when we have companies like this one out-of-state heavy equipment assembly company, we just sent them the rough link of what we had, and they were really impressed with it because they got a really good feel for what the park looks like. This is just a little bit of data on the materials that we're assembling, and once it's all put together, and once we have the survey finished, it's being done, that Roland and Bob are in the process of working on. That information will also be included into our marketing materials, which will be really, really handy. And then also displaying the fact that we are a certified park. And then in last quarter, I combined forces with a local commercial real estate broker, and we went up for 3 days to Dallas to the ICSC deal-making conference. ICSC stands for International Conference of Shopping Centers. It is really an old moniker that really is kind of outdated, but everyone knows it as such. And really, basically, it is a commercial brokerage and development and economic development corporation convention. We had a booth there. We were visited by we stopped counting at 220 people. We probably had a whole lot more than that. About 25% of the exhibitors were either economic development corporations or were chambers of commerce. So it was really kind of a risk. I'd not taken a booth up to the ICSC convention before, but I recall in my brokerage career seeing that there were a lot of EDCs and chambers. And so I went up there, and we were really, really well received. Here's a couple images. I was also working with Ken Becker, who's from Sweetwater. We were working on a couple of talks and things like that we did. And then this is also just an example of some of the other small towns and cities throughout the state that were represented at ICSC. We had economic development corporations as far as Arkansas and Oklahoma. And there were a lot more people. These were just taken before all the folks showed up. And so anyway, that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what our quarter was like. If you have any questions, if you'd like to ask them now, you may, or I can just see me after the meeting.
Questions?
Any questions
Nothing right
for
now.
the mic man? Okay, very good. It's a pleasure to serve you guys, and everything's been going really well. And just wanted to say thanks again for your confidence in me and for this opportunity. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Our next, I was gonna say, we'll just hang right there. Our next item is consideration and adoption of approving the Chamber of Commerce fiscal year 2014-15 marketing and action plan.
Okay, so you didn't have a presentation for that.
The presentation for that really is just the spreadsheet, which is attached in your packet. I think it's attached in the packet, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Do we have a spreadsheet?
Other than what's in the packet, I've got,
John has one.
can you read that?
Wow, that's really small. Duly noted. Okay.
Please not read it.
No, yeah. You know, the good news is that at noon I have an appointment with Dr. Lamb to get my eyes checked. I do. He texted me, confirmed. So that'll be really timely. Basically, what we did is I obviously used our scope of service in the contract and used that as our guidepost. And we tried to get it set up to where the plan of action isn't just a bunch of narration and bullet points. It's really a living, working document that Roland and Phil and other stakeholders can add to, modify over the course of the year, so that at the end of this year, we have the action plan tailored for the coming year. And so we wanted to set it up in kind of a spreadsheet system. And clearly the website is of most import to us, and we are currently in the process of working on selecting what we hope to be a local provider, so that we can get that underway, get the website modified, and then also create the website for the industrial park, which is something that we really think is very important. And that would be under item number 2, which is the industrial center and park, which is how we're going to work on trying to market that thing, also with a bunch of marketing materials that are going to be leave behinds and things like that. And Roland rules. Thank you so very much, Mr. Roland. I have a bigger version here to look at. Third on the list is just looking at the direct outreach. That's really my primary function, working in conjunction with the COSA-DC, working on trying to identify and attack as many companies as we can that are within the region and some outside the state. And that's being done in a lot of different ways. Trade shows are one of them, but also just using our market intelligence and identifying as many companies as possible that we think would be compatible with the different economic drivers in the area. And we're still getting a lot of outreach, not as much, but still a significant amount from oil-producing companies, not necessarily exploration companies, but producers and the companies that work with them on their services that they provide. Number 4 is marketing materials and community information, which we have put together for a long time at the Chamber, and we're working on combining that with information that supports the BRC, SBDC, of course the Chamber, and the operations at the COSA-DC. Because really the ultimate goal is just to show any employers that are outside the region that we have a cohesive, collaborative union amongst all the different partners. And that was really demonstrated quite well last week when we hosted this energy brokerage company that I just mentioned a little while ago. And they'd expressed to us how impressed that they were with how we all work very cohesively and work together on the main goal. We're also encouraging a new kind of a formalized program where we have it's kind of business-to-business project. And we want to create a business-to-business program to encourage local businesses to consider patronizing other local businesses. And that becomes increasingly more important as companies have the ability to trade with providers of services and goods outside of the state, maybe even outside of the country because of the internet. And so what we're trying to do is we're looking at a couple of different methods of advertising and creating awareness of the fact that it's important to keep our dollars within our community. Clearly we want to create new dollars, but keeping them within the community is also very critical. And so we're working on a program with COSA-DC and our other partners on creating more awareness. There is a program in Austin called Go Local, which we've looked at, which is already set up. It's in 11 cities in the in the U.S. and we can elaborate more on that one-on-one. But it is a program that's already set up for initiatives like what we want to do with sort of a, quote, go local San Angelo. And so it's not uncommon, and it is a already set up, ready to go program.
Have they already been here?
No, they haven't. We have been discussing that with the company. They're based out of Austin, and we decided that we would wait for the holidays to get behind us, and then they're going to send up a representative to come survey the city and check us out. But in our phone discussions, they've looked at San Angelo and learned about it through our educating them, and they think that it'd be prime, and it would be branded it wouldn't be branded as a Austin related. It would just be go local San Angelo, and that's just one type of way we can promote keeping our dollars local. Also mentioned the Business Resource Center and how we're working very closely with all of our partners there and officing there, and then finally rounded out the marketing plan with focus on business retention and expansion program, which Costa DC takes the lead on, but we want to, per our contract, make sure that we provide as much support as possible, even if it's just a lead from someone we're talking to or hear about that might need some help. And then trade shows is the final mandate, and we're going to be really selective on what trade shows we go to. I believe in taking more of a surgical rifle shot approach as opposed to a shotgun approach, but I do think that making ourselves part of the field of players on a state level is important, and was really impressed upon me when I was at ICSC in Dallas, and I was really thankful that we made the decision to go up there and represent our city, because there were a lot of cities that were really close to our city that had really nice displays, and they were shaking a lot of hands and meeting a lot of companies, and so it was really important for us to step up and be a part of it. So anyway, if there's any questions on that, I know I kind of just skimmed the treetops.
I got one on your direct business outreach program. You've got goals in here of contacting 2 a week.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going?
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just phone calls and emails, and
Got any-
there are a lot of companies out there to reach out to. And a lot of them, it's really something, it's like when I was in the brokerage business, we always just tell our people, don't be afraid to cold call because no one else is doing it. And you go to a lot of these guru meetings and they say, oh, your competition's cold calling every day. A lot of people don't. And so whenever we call on these companies, they're usually really, really happy to hear from us. And they take it to heart that someone from the city, if you like, had the wherewithal to reach out to them and welcome them and enthusiastically tell them what we're doing and why we're very proud of what we have going on. And it's no secret that we're in the middle of an economic boom. Yeah, the oil prices are down a little bit, and everybody expected it. It's not going to last forever. We've got a lot of other industries. We've got an extremely diversified base, which is very important, unlike some cities in our state that are not diversified. We wear that on our sleeves. And so, yeah, we get a real warm welcoming from a lot of employers.
Roland, I have a question for you. Based on the contract that we have with the chamber, how are we able to, from an accountability standpoint, see if these things are actually, I see we got the progress column, we got the to-do column, we got the status column. Is there a matrix that we have that we can track the progress and the accountability for us?
Tommy, what we're doing is, in fact, with the next invoice from the chamber, you'll see in the contract we asked for, and we stated that we would be paying a reimbursable invoice. So we'll review the invoice to reflect the performance measures, which is includes the marketing plan. And so in that, we're going to be looking for how much of each project task has been completed, and there could be no different than what we do with any other professional services. We want to see we've contracted with you to perform a specific service, specific task, and we want to see how much of those tasks have been completed. And so some of them maybe be a certain percent complete, some of them may be fully complete, and that's what we're going to be looking for before we write the check.
Thanks.
And we've already come up with a system for that.
Good.
It's the harvest system, which I'd explained to you before, which handles all line item invoicing.
Other questions?
I've got one.
Yes, sir.
Of course, everybody knows that Texas is the #1 state in the union as far as job growth. I would really like to see Chamber of Commerce and Coastal DC check into the possibility of visiting FabTech. FabTech's the largest manufacturers trade show in the world, and all the manufacturers from all over the United States and a lot of places in the world are there. And every year I go, I see combined booths with several development corporations from different Texas cities soliciting business, but San Angelo isn't there. That's one thing I would like to see from my perspective, because I know that's where you're going to run into the people that are thinking about logistically moving their business and thinking about moving manufacturing plants and on and on and on.
I'm familiar with FabTech, I sure am, and we'll do it. We'll go.
Good.
Perfect.
Daniel, that's really an oversight, because Michael and I had talked about it, and somehow we must have missed
Yeah,
it in
Fab,
there.
that's why I went looking for it.
Yeah.
Because I know we talked about it, but it just didn't make the
The
spreadsheet.
final draft, okay.
Yeah, but it should be. Yeah, FabTech's a big one.
It's the
Yes,
biggest
sir.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments? All right, well, we need an approval of the marketing and action plan, do we not? So I need a motion to approve it with the addition of, you're going to add something FabTech related to it?
Yeah, we'll add FabTech. No problem.
Okay.
I will make that motion.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Barrio, second by Mr. Hebert. Any public comment? All right, I will call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you all very much. Thanks for letting me use your laptop.
All right.
That really helped.
Next item, consideration and possible action of authorizing the Coastal DC Board President to execute the professional services agreement with KSA Engineers Incorporated in substantially the same form as attached to complete the scope of work for the completion of the application of Phase 3 of the AEP Quality Site Certification Program, not to exceed $134,677. Mr. Pena.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
Good morning.
This item, I'm going to move that. This item, if you may recall, we asked for the board to authorize staff to deviate from the city policy, purchasing policy. It is my understanding from purchasing that we are a standalone entity. We really don't have to adhere to that policy. We do that just as to reflect the standard protocol. But in this case, we asked to be able to deviate back in October because of the speed that we're looking for in terms of meeting the deadline to submit the AEP certification. And you granted that authorization in October of 2014. Obviously, for the benefit of the audience, what we're talking about is the application of Phase 3 for the AEP Quality Site Certification for the San Angelo Business and Industrial Park, and we need to submit that application by August 2015. So we proceeded down that path, and we issued an RFI. We did consult with purchasing to determine what that RFI was going to look like, and what was under our purview in terms of how to evaluate those responses. We issued that on 12/5/2014 via email to 3 local entities, and we asked for the assistance in obtaining that Phase 3 certification. It does require, as you may recall, some field studies and surveys and investigations. I need to make this clear, and I think we made this clear back in October. We're not looking for an engineering service company. We're looking more for the project management and planning service a company. And usually some of those engineering companies have that and have that in-house. So we were looking for this consulting firm, and we asked that if they had that type of service in-house, that's what we would prefer, simply because of the short deadline. If they have to seek an outside partner, obviously that adds to the cost, and it could add to increase to the timeline. So we were discouraging that. However, if they could provide evidence that they could utilize a firm, we would consider that as a team approach. We asked the providers to respond no later than December the 10th, and we did evaluate those responses. We then followed up with phone interviews on December 15th, and obviously Bob and I did this together, proceeding with the different steps to arrive at a negotiated contract. We wanted to look at the services, how many of the tasks. If you'll look, there's about 11 to 13 tasks on there. Some do have dependent tasks. And we wanted to confirm how much could be done in-house and to determine a timeline, and also put some objectivity and determine what kind of approach they would take. We then followed up and notified each responder about that we had selected one vendor and we intended to negotiate a contract. We did that between December 30th and January 13th, and did agree upon the terms of engagement with KSA Engineers, Inc. The other respondents included Blau and Associates and SKG Engineering. So with that, I would recommend approval, and I am open to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
How many responded to the RFI?
We selected those three because we just based on what we know, and obviously, Bob's been here longer, and I do utilize his skills, his land use skills, and his network, and he identified these three entities in San Angelo. I'm sure there's probably more, but we were looking for these specific services, and we felt that these three entities had the services that we were looking for.
Other questions? Public comment. If you'll state your name.
Good morning, Russell Gully, SKG Engineering. We did respond to the request, and so I have a few comments and concerns. In reading through the COSA DC's Business Retention and Expansion Program, taking care of our own was there in the first line of that, and so that really resounded with me, and so I've done a little research and would ask some questions that you might want to have answers to before you make a decision about selecting your firm. There were a good grocery list of services to be provided as part of this. We felt we had the ability to provide a majority of those in-house, but we're really not here talking about our qualifications at this point. One of the top item was a property survey, and so I looked up the firm that you're entertaining today, and they are not listed with the Texas Board of Professional Land Surveyors as having a branch in San Angelo. So if they're offering or making statements that they can offer surveying services out of a San Angelo branch, I'd like to know that. You should probably know that because that's in a direct violation of the Surveying Practice Act. So they do have, and I did look up this morning, you can go online and check and see if the firms are registered. I did look up KSA, and they are, but in Longview and Lufkin, not in San Angelo. Another one of the items is geotech investigations, and looking through their website, I didn't see that they perform geotech investigations in-house. I know there's a firm here in San Angelo, we specifically do those. We were not requested or asked to give them a proposal and work with them on doing geotechs. The same holds true for the phase ones. There again, I don't know. So, ultimately, my concern is how much work by KSA will be performed by people who live, work, pay taxes, spend their money in San Angelo. Michael was up here talking about the importance of buy local. Keep your money local. And you today have a decision to make. Will you buy local? And, I certainly would want to know how much of my money am I spending. They do. They have an office here in San Angelo. Sure, they are local, but how much of their actual services will be performed locally? So I appreciate your time, your work you do for the Development Corporation, and your interest to the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Russell.
Is anyone here from KSA?
Yes.
Good morning. If you state your name for us.
Good morning, David Alexander. I'm with KSA Engineers. I live here in the local area, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know that I need to respond to all of those accusations, but I'm happy to answer questions about it.
Well, I guess I would just like to hear how much of your services, I don't want to tit for tat,
Sure.
obviously, but how much of your services will be provided with either local other vendors or your own folks?
I don't know if I have a specific percentage, but the engineering services, obviously, we're going to provide here in-house. It's mainly planning and environmental type services, and so, yes, there's a geotech firm we're going to hire, sub out that type of work. We don't do geotechnical engineering. Molly's going to be our project manager because she has the planning and environmental background to do that. And so that's why we set it up like we did. She's not local, but we do have 12 employees here in the local office. We do provide an engineering topographic surveying out of a field office. It's not a surveying office per se. It's an engineering office, and it's set up as a field office for oil and gas industry primarily. Our surveyors are our registered professional land surveyors in Longview. So if you go down the list, we have a local title attorney that we're going to use. Obviously, we're not attorneys. Topographic surveying, engineering cost estimate we would do in-house. The phase one we would do in-house. Wetland assessment. The T&E, federal and state T&E, Molly's going to look into that. It's typically letter writing. We're going to move some paperwork stuff. If there's a biologist that we have to hire, we'll probably have to hire a biologist to do that work, which any engineering firm would probably have to do that. Archaeological, historic, we'll consult with those folks. Again, if we have to bring on that service, then yeah, we would have to go out to do that. Draft covenants, I believe we'd do that in-house. We're going to do the master development plan in-house with our planning group. And then the site master drainage plan we'd do in-house.
Excuse me, whenever you say in-house, does that mean here in-house or?
The site master
Longview?
drainage plan would be in-house. The planning portion would probably be somewhere else. We don't have specific planners here locally, but we do have the ability to do that within our company. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It greatly benefits the local office for us to do this work here, for sure.
Other questions or comments?
So I guess for Bob and Roland, you guys obviously vetted these three companies. You had some means by which you scored them, I am assuming.
That is correct.
And so based on the results of the list of items you set up in your checklist, you're recommending KSA.
We are very satisfied with our recommendation. We did not skip any steps in my opinion. I mean, as I stated when I first started, we were told that because we are our own separate entity, we really don't have to adhere to the city purchasing policy. We can pick someone and make the phone call and then hire them with your approval. But we decided to go through the steps, go through the motions that we would have done other than publishing the public notices, which would have taken a whole lot longer. But we were very satisfied at the evaluations. We were looking for the specific expertise within house, and we were also looking at the timeline and the approach, and we're very satisfied with that. Had we done the public notice, then obviously we wouldn't be here today. We'd probably be coming back to you maybe in April or so. And I'm just very concerned about the short timeline, and that is the reason that we deviated from that. But we're very satisfied with what we've seen and what has been proposed. Bob, do you want to add to that?
The only thing that I would say is that it has been my experience, having worked for firms like Carter Burgess Engineers when they used to exist, where they had offices basically all over the country. KSA has a number of offices. The advantage that you get there is that no matter what problem you encounter, somebody else in the company has probably already run into it, and you can put out a request for some help and you can get it. So the KSA does have a local presence here. They, I think, probably plan to grow their office here as much as they can. So, and yet they do have a wide range of the capabilities that we needed, including being able to put a planner as the lead on this project, which is what we really felt like we needed.
They have 2 planners in-house, and that was a very strong point. We were trying to mitigate risk, and that is one way to mitigate risk. And so mitigate risk, which includes cost. And so we're very comfortable.
Molly, do you live here in San Angelo?
I feel like I do some days. I'm in San Angelo. I would say monthly, if not bi-monthly. I don't have a traditional home office. I'm KSA's lead planner. I'm based out of Kansas City, Missouri, but I spend most of my time in airplanes. So I give you guys a couple of enplanements, and I pay your hotels.
Other board comment, questions?
I think what it does for us, this raises an interesting question. I mean, we need to have a discussion. This is not the proper time, but this raises an interesting question for this board about what is and what isn't local. Again, not the proper time or place to have it, but we need to have that discussion and get some direction.
I'm open to that. I agree.
Good idea, Tommy. All right. Well, I need a motion if we've got one.
I will make the motion that we proceed as recommended by staff.
All right. Have a motion by Mr. Barrio.
Second.
Second by Mr. Villarreal. Further public comment? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next item. Consideration and possible action of approving the Costa DC to host a 2015 Governor's Small Business Forum coordinating with the San Angelo Chamber of Commerce, Concho Valley Workforce Development Board, Angelo State University Small Business Center, Howard College, and to become the fiscal agent for up to $15,000 of reimbursable funds. Mr. Pena.
This item, you have a letter dated January 5th from the Office of the Governor. As the letter states, they intend to conduct 18 small business forums throughout the state, and they ask for a host. There's really no risk other than being able to follow through, putting up the partner coordination. As you can see from the letter, the Small Business Forum will help to showcase Texas as a premier place to start and grow and expand in terms of small and medium-sized enterprises, also known as SMEs. The Business Forum will help businesses and individuals receive some of the tools and programs and insights and the expertise to help them grow. So I think it's going to be a really good resource for the region. It's not only for the city board, but for the region. As noted in the caption, we do want to work with our partners. In fact, I presented this to our partners at our economic development partner meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we were all in favor of moving forward with this. Again, simply because we are the lead entity in the region. We do provide regional goods and services, and we want to be a resource as well. The only caveat to this is that we become the fiscal agent, able to handle $15,000. They are reimbursable, fully reimbursable by the state. So we'll act as a champion to help coordinate, working with the partners to help put this business forum together and in collaboration with the governor's office. All we would do is respond and say we're interested. Whether we're selected is going to be up to the governor's office. But I'm just seeking the permission from the board to allow us to do that, especially to be able to float that $15,000 during that. They gave us a 30 to 45 days is the criteria if you see on the letter.
Roland, for the sake of the viewing public, could you, in very simple terms, explain where that $15,000 is going to come from and the whole reimbursement?
The $15,000 will come from the governor's office to help fund speakers, materials, or incidentals. We are to provide the interim funds. That is, the ED Corporation will provide the interim funds to help cover those costs, and they will reimburse us within 30 to 45 days.
From what source will we draw those? Just reserves?
Yes, future projects.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Roland.
Yes, sir.
Do you see us spending more than $15,000, Roland? It says up to $15,000.
That is correct. I do not. And we've done this before back in 2010, and that's the last time that this city did it. But Small Business Development Center, we have an advantage with the Small Business Development Center. I mean, this is what they do, every week, and they have a lot of speakers and resources. Obviously, the governor's office name, it will be an attraction to the region and to small business entities. You see the topics there they're very appealing. There are some target groups of veterans, appealing to veterans, and also perhaps women and minority-owned businesses. Obviously, the small and medium-sized business enterprises. All of those are very, very good targets for us. And so, with that, I recommend approval.
Roland, I've got a question about this. What exactly is the state's part in this? Are they going to, well, let me explain something. The state of Texas, as far as grants and funding goes, it's very sparse in West Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly political. You look at Austin, everybody gets a grant. You look at our region, very few people get grants. Is the state going to possibly get more involved in helping local businesses through this, or what is their function going to be?
Well, Director, it is my impression that they're providing this service to help educate and create the awareness to the region. They lend their name out for the branding, for the credibility of the program. I do like that aspect. They are heavily involved in speaking to Dave, who helped to put that last small business forum back in 2010. They were very, very involved. I mean, they provide the personnel. They do provide additional resources in terms of specific speakers with that are subject matter experts. So they'll be involved. In terms of those grants, I don't believe that this is going to be the venue to be. I mean, I'm sure they'll provide the awareness that there are programs out there for these businesses to take advantage of. But you bring up another interesting point that I think we can talk about in addition to what Tommy brought up is in our board workshop. That is something that I'd like to pursue is elevating what we do to help do more to benefit our business and industry in our region.
Yes, and I'll give you a personal experience. In 2012, we applied for what they call the capital funds, which is the governor's program. We would have been the first business in West Texas to receive a capital fund grant. We were turned down.
Really?
Yeah. It has to do a lot with politics, unfortunately.
Well, that's interesting. I've worked capital fund grants, and I was successful at getting those grants awarded. But
it's difficult.
I would make a motion to approve allowing Roland to pursue this, being the fiscal agent for the governor's office for this small business forum for up to $15,000 of reimbursable funds.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Hebert, second by Mr. Barrio for the motion. Any public comment? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, consideration of approving the purchase and installation of a security monitor system in the amount of $2,743.40 from ASG Security.
this is another item where I attempted to seek an additional quote, and the second quote did not come through. But I am asking for the purchase and installation of the security monitor system. The city does have a contract with ASG, and because of the contract, there is a discounted discounted amount. So we really receive a discounted a benefit. So we take advantage of that relationship that the city has after they've gone through their bidding process, and so we are a benefit because we are closely related to the city. The other quote that I was not able to bring to you was about $1,000 more. I was trying to finalize why the difference, but I could never get that other entity to follow through. This is my request that this is a public entity. The BRC is a public entity. We do receive a lot of traffic there. We all, because of the training by evening by the Small Business Development Center. During the day, we have a lot of visitors there. We have a lot of visitors because of the business factory, the business incubator upstairs, and obviously people that come to see us. So there's a lot of activity that transpires there. We've had a series of vehicle break-ins there at the City Hall parking lot. We have a ladder that was on the roof of our building that was stolen, and it's about 100 feet long, and it's about that thick and steel. And we saw a pair of tracks that hauled it off, and after about a month and a half or so, we found it about a block and a half away. And that was only because by mere chance I mentioned it to someone, and I said, someone stole our ladder. We used that to get to the business factory. But in addition, we've had.
They can't just go up the stairs in the building?
No.
I'm sorry.
It's the second level of the roof.
I'm sorry.
We'd have to go through the ducking system, but we've also had an air conditioning unit that was vandalized in the stairway of the building, and we've just had some mischief there, and I think that we need a security system. I think it's time. It was never installed, and I'm asking.
I am good with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Roland, I just have one question. Does the city as a whole have any kind of comprehensive security plan that they would possibly be pursuing with regard to the other city buildings in the neighborhood, the Community Development Center, City Hall itself? things of that nature?
They do.
Okay.
I don't know much about it, but I know that they do. I was talking to Michael Dane about bringing this to you before the board, and I think they do have a
And
a plan
I'm
and
presuming
system.
that the fact that we're getting a discount through ASG, being the city's contractor already,
They also
we're
provide the
just
service.
adding the second or the next piece to the puzzle.
That's correct.
Very good.
Roland, I'm assuming this will include the BRC parking lot to the north
Yes,
there.
sir.
Okay, all right.
I will make the motion that we pursue this.
Motion by Mr. Barrio,
Second.
second by Mr. Hebert. Any public comment? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, presentation and update regarding the Coast of DC Brett Marketing Program. Mr. Bob Schneeman with a handout.
No, to us,
Not
not.
with his
We aren't
hand.
going to give you nothing, Bob.
Not with your handout.
Thank you.
I just want one of the color ones. The other one's got too much writing on it.
He wants the ones with the
Give
pictures.
the
on
the
it.
pretty pictures.
He is our president.
Here, I'll show Mr. Hebert. Thank you. Ooh. I like that. That is sharp.
Did Dino do this specifically for us?
I don't know. But it looks nice.
It is. It is nice. Did we
Thank you.
commission the artist?
These, the artwork that you see there was from Vino DePinte, sorry. And those are the paintings that are hanging in the
Oh, okay.
stairwell.
All right.
Hallway, yeah.
And they photography by yours truly with an iPhone.
High tech.
Yeah, you got a second career in the making there, Bob.
So that's why you had your handout up here.
Now we know.
All right, this is a little update on what's going on with the Business Retention Expansion Program, and Michael's given you some prelude to it. But all of the training sessions that we've had with the partners are now completed. Dave Erickson did the last one about 2 weeks ago. And basically what we've done there is each of the partners has put on a little presentation on what's available through their organization in the way of business retention expansion incentives, training programs, whatever. And the idea was not to for any of us to be able to go out and represent the other one, but just to know that their services are available and that we can refer a potential client to one or more of the partners. And if there is a fairly significant project that we're working on, we would pull all the partners together and put together some kind of a program that would specifically address that company. The next thing was to start the direct outreach program, and we Roland and I talked a lot about this, and we finally selected the manufacturing NAICS codes as the first series of companies that we wanted to approach. The last listing that we got from Workforce Development had about 1,800 companies that have an eligible NAICS code within the. It's basically within the Tom Green County, but the majority of those are within the city limits. A lot of them are farmers and ag related, but anyway, there are about 1,800 companies that or entities that have an eligible NAICS code. So of those, we gleaned it to about 150 that have manufacturing NAICS codes, and those are the first ones that we're gonna do and we're gonna approach. I gave you a copy of the mail out. This will go is going to go out this week. Matter of fact, we're just waiting for stamps because we have to actually put stamps on these. 150 of these are going out this week to the companies, and then hopefully we'll start getting some response from them. The next step is going to be, we're going to do a direct mail letter specifically to those companies. That'll probably be under Roland's signature, and try to generate some feedback, some conversation with those companies to see if we can begin to get the word out, and also see who's out there that wants to grow their business and maybe can use our help. Of course, this is the, I'll put this up so that everybody can see it. This is the front side of the mail out that I just gave you. And on the back side, there's a brief explanation of what potentially is available to the companies. And of course, the right side of the card is for the addresses. This is just an enlargement of the text on that back portion of the thing. And then the available incentives, and for more information to contact us, and to specifically to email to me. We'll also have a link to all of this on our website, so that anyone who's interested can go through the website as well. And this, we're not limiting this to just to manufacturing at this point either. I mean, they're just going to be the first series of companies that we are going to approach. I'd also like to give some credit to the Small Business Development Center, because as much as I would like to take all the credit for this, Desiree Johnson that works for Dave Erickson in Small Business Development Center helped me put all of this together. So and she basically did the manual labor portion of this. So I'd like to extend my appreciation to that organization and to Desiree.
All right.
Questions, comments?
Thank you, Bob.
I'd like to make a comment. This reminds me of an old-fashioned postcard. Bob, you need to put over here, "Having fun at the beach, partner. Wish you were here." I love this. This is great.
Somebody actually suggested that we put they sell postcards at the visitor center.
Yeah.
And somebody suggested that we put like a $1.50 price tag on these and put them over there.
Very entrepreneurial of you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Bob.
That sounds good.
It's good work.
All right, that concludes our regular agenda items. We do have an executive session, which we will now move to. Executive session under the provision of Government Code, Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, Exceptions to requirement that meetings be open. Section 551.0712, to consult with an attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the government body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct and State Bar Agreement of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter regarding matters related to development agreements between the City of San Angelo, City of San Angelo Development Corporation, and Marta for Hirschfeld Energy Systems, LLC. Section 551.072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.087, to discuss and offer financial or other incentives to a company or companies with whom the City of San Angelo Development Corporation is conducting economic development negotiations, and which the City of San Angelo Development Corporation seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in San Angelo. It is 9:35. Huh? Okay, it is 9:56, and we are coming out of executive session. We have nothing to report from our executive session. Next item is consideration and possible action regarding matters in executive session which was not needed. Goal and future planning board work session agenda.
No, not yet. I'll hand it back. You'll check on the partners, but they may want to participate.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, we can read this one.
So you won't have to do any eye straining.
Yeah.
Thank you. I shouldn't be in these plans. I shouldn't be in these plans. No.
Oh,
Shouldn't is just
enabler.
there.
He's your enabler right there.
I'm the guy you see. I'm like, you can have another.
Have another crackle.
Let's look this puppy up and
Ooh,
play now.
cool.
To keep us moving, I will proceed and let Nora provide those handouts.
I guess it's this.
We have, you may recall, we embarked on some prioritization of our goals back in March of 2014. After that board workshop, we had some communications about refining the work that came out of the board workshop, and then we had that adopted by the board members. So we do have a plan that we've been pursuing, and then the council ratified our goals in May. But we've done a lot of work since then. We did hire a consultant in March, and we basically said this would be our roadmap for the next 12 to 18 months. Alicia Cook out of Round Rock came to help facilitate that, and prior to that, the only other prioritization that had been done was August of 2012. So I'm going to ask you to look at the spreadsheet titled Prioritization of Goals, and at the bottom of the sheet it states quarterly reports presented April and September. And you'll see that we had two goals that the board identified as priorities, number one. And for the benefit of the audience, I've abbreviated what you have on the spreadsheet. Basically, priority number one was to support the continuation and expansion of Goodfellow Air Force Base and actively pursue training programs. The prior goal, the one that we had that we agreed upon in March, stated that we were actively pursue cyber training, and I've been talking to our partners, reviewing these goals in advance of today's meeting, making sure that we do some refinement and make sure that we tweak. And talking to Phil, he felt like we needed to restate that the cyber training has been more or less solidified, but we wanted to pursue additional training. So that's what we've done. As you can tell, if you look in terms of the status, you look at the things to do and the status, the partner, Chamber of Commerce, has been very active. They've solidified several MOUs, and they have conducted their visits to Washington, including the Armed Services Committee members of Texas. So they've been very active and very busy, and they do a very good job of staying on top of that. The other priority identified was to identify issues by employers by working with the city and the county and state elected officials, and to utilize our business retention expansion program. By the way, I intended this board workshop to be just like we did back in March, very informal. I do want your feedback. This is what we're seeking, so we can do some continued refinement of our goals. Feel free to get up and grab you a cup of coffee, and I made sure that we put some sweets up there to keep you to keep you awake if need be. But so the second item had to do with the business retention expansion and trying to understand the needs of businesses. I did add some additional partners. In this case, City of San Angelo Development Services. That was one of the reasons that I brought in Patrick, so that you could see he's been very busy trying to make it a much more business friendly at the city. If you look at the things to do when we left in March, streamlining and working with city staff to improve the permitting and building process. He's been doing a lot of that. The business retention expansion, we moved forward with that, and we're very successful working with the board to try to arrive at a program and a marketing plan. And now we're calling on those visits, and we do have now a very good incentive policy that I think will be the envy of other competitors. So that has worked very well, and we have developed a good partnership in terms of the BREP program, and we're very anxious to see how that continues to develop.
Roland, I wonder if we need to add to that, and I guess this is a question for the board as much as anything, if we need to add to that the business-to-business initiative, so that we don't let that slide to the side. Do we have that on any
We
one?
can do that. We can do that.
To me, that can sometimes, not every single time, but sometimes could go hand in glove with BREP, but
I
still,
agree.
I think the business to business,
Yeah,
if we
that's-
don't focus on that, we're not gonna do it. And I see that as being as important almost as the BREP.
I agree.
That's a
Daniel?
great concept.
Okay. So if you flip the page, you'll see that we had much more activity. Obviously, the board set aside the $650,000 budget. We also set aside some dollars for training classes, so training some businesses. We've had 3 entities that met the NAICS codes, and so we've provided some grant funds for that. That is handled administratively, and so we're working very well. We're working very well with Small Business Development Center. I'm going to move to priority number 2, and this involved regional leadership in obtaining the air service and marketing campaign to recapture the Houston daily flight destination to and from San Angelo. The lead initially was the Chamber of Commerce, but since the airport has been really project managing that effort along with the consultant, I've added them to the as a responsible person, as a lead. A lot of the information that you see here has been coming from Lou. Notice that they were able to obtain the 1-year extension of this GAS-D grant that will now expire December 2016. And they will be moving forward on talking to other potential service providers to seek that service. I know there are times that we stand up here and there's some information on our documentation, perhaps on our quarterly reports, and I felt like I'm compelled to say this, that perhaps inadvertently we may state something that should not be disclosed. So I'm asking for for some cooperation with the board and the audience and the media. If they see something on here, please consult with us, because there's sometimes we have to retain some of this information confidential for the sake of competitive reasons. And so if you have any questions about that, please let us know. So next month you'll have Lou here reporting on that, and we should have some more information with that regard. We're excited about what's happening there. The other priority number 2 was to collaborate with Texas Pacifico to help improve the rail infrastructure in the Concho Valley region and in strategic locations outside the region that provide necessary connections, such as Presidio or the Presidio International Bridge. This has been ongoing. However, and as you can see, we've had some activity there, and we've had some potential employment projects. The lead is the Chamber of Commerce. I have talked to Phil about this. Michael may or may not be aware, but as I stated to Director Anderson, in terms of this future year and future months, it is our desire to elevate where we've been. And so we've had, say, 9 or 10 months of observation, activity, some assessments, but we've embarked on some initiatives. It is our opinion that we can do more, that we can be a leader in more ways, that we can seek those grants to help accommodate some of those grants that you were talking about, Director Anderson. So we want to be more effective, and we want to have some successes under our belt. I think in talking to Michael Looney, we've set some goals in terms of, President Tankersley kind of honed in on the observation of those leads. We really, although we have 2 or 3 leads per week, we really want some solid leads per month. And so we really want to elevate what we do and how we do it. So just so that you have an idea of where we're headed in terms of the future months. Let's see. Going back to this Texas Pacifico, I've asked Phil to look at the potential of the old South Orient Railroad District. You may remember that that district was created to help save the rail. Without that rail line, I think if you remember, that there was an effort to pick up and sell the rail for scrap several years ago. Well, I've asked Phil to look at the potential of a summit or some form of communication with this rail line district so that we can begin looking at how we can work together to help create some economic activity along that line. I think working together, we're going to be much more effective, and so that is something he's going to be pursuing. Any questions on those two priorities? Any additions? Any concerns?
Well, I know that the TxDOT has funding available. That is a capital grants fund. And they will supposedly fund rail spurs. But we need to work real hard with them to make that happen for more people here in San Angelo. I know that there's a certain situation that could probably be solved right now if we could get funding for that entity to locate their operation on the outskirts of San Angelo. But
let's don't get away from us without us knowing what that is, so that we can help try to explore that and facilitate that. I'm in agreement.
okay.
Let me move to priority number 3. This was a new item. You may recall Mike Buck made an appeal during that board work session about exploring the impact of oil and gas industry expansion, identifying future needs, and which included attraction, retaining, and expanding secondary industries and businesses. At the time, we recommended that he take the lead, and he has done that with some joint responsibilities as he proceeds down that path. If you notice, there were some things to do there in terms of the first phase study that UTSA had put together to look at the impact in the West Texas Energy. Phase 2 has been released. If you need a copy of that, we can get you a copy of that. And then notice that as of December 5th, there was a new allocation granted to help that West Texas Energy Consortium organization continue. You might have seen the press release back in December. They have done some good work, and so enough to give them another round of funding to continue to work, studying the impact and helping that industry and helping others understand the impacts of that industry.
So, Roland, when we talk about secondary industries and businesses to the oil and gas, I am assuming that would include whatever the supply chain is that is a part of the oil and gas industry. So who has direct, and you may have answered the question already, but who has the direct oversight and responsibility for checking on that supply chain so that we can try to diversify our economy that may be maybe initially part and parcel to oil and gas, but also if that just really falls off, they could still be here and create, some jobs. So whose direct responsibility is it to look at that?
That's going to be our responsibility.
Okay.
It'll be Coast DC and the chamber through their contract. I believe at the time when this was discussed, Mike was more interested in the impact and how it would affect the communities, the municipalities, and their planning and preparations and so forth. But in terms of recruiting some of those industries, they do fall in our next codes. In terms of the retention and expansion of those industries, they do fall within our next codes. We consider that our responsibilities.
Okay, good.
However, we do work very well with the partnerships. I feel, we've had it's some great synergies with the partners. I'm very proud, and I'll talk more about it as we look at the organizational goals, but we're really gelling. Things are gelling, things are happening, and I'm just very proud of the fact that we've been able to work very well together.
Well, I think impacts are important. I don't think there's any question about that. I think we do need to know that, but I think also we don't need to lose our focus as one board member. I don't want to lose my focus. Our job, my job, as I see it, is to create jobs with the resources that we have. So, for me, I'm going to try to hold you, Bob, the Development Corporation, the Chamber through their contract accountable. What are we doing to create jobs? I
understand. Totally agree. The next item, leverage Angelo State University Association with Texas Tech University System to identify opportunities to attract education or research functions from Texas Tech's Lubbock campus ASU. If you notice, this is one that we're very weak in. There's no activity that has happened, so I'm going to be focusing on that to determine if Angelo State has an interest. I believe it's a very good priority. I believe it's a very good goal, and I think we ought to look into that. But we just have not had any activity there, and so I will pursue that. I think we should be flexible in that the plan can change. It is a living document in terms of proceeding with some goals. If they're not interested, then we could determine if there's something alternative that they are interested in, and if not, we'll just pull it from the list.
Aren't we kind of limited by law anyway, as far as what we can do for an educational institute?
That is correct. However, if we, Director, the way I see it is we have, as a leader in our subject matter, we ought to be able to help facilitate some of these activities. If it benefits our community, if it benefits our industries, we should take the lead in helping to enable. We don't, in this case, Angelo State University is documented as the lead, but if we can help facilitate that, help them become the lead and pursue that to benefit our community and our industry and our economic well-being, I think we have that kind of responsibility. But that eventually will lead to some jobs. It doesn't necessarily mean that we take the lead, but I think we can help facilitate someone else taking the lead.
I think the other consideration there is that we can't fund them, but that doesn't mean that we can't, help point them in a particular direction where they can get help, or, and just basically take the lead as far as economic development overall.
Right, I understand that. Thank you.
I think that we could also encourage them to create research programs and such that the Development Corporation is actually the benefactor as the end user of the data collected, the findings that we could pass on to industries within the applicable NICS codes.
That is correct. In fact, if we can get to that point, we could also, depending on how it's structured, we could benefit from from the development of a product in partnership with them if we pursue that. But obviously that will entail more discussions and more work. The following goals that we have here are not prioritized. They fell below the top three. Capitalizing on the Costa DC's forward-thinking investment in the Business Resource Center and providing high-level support to small businesses and entrepreneurs. You can see that we've had a lot of activity there. If you look at the things to do, having considering co-working lease space opportunities, we have done some early research in co-working lease space and have determined that at least in the existing part of the BRC now and the available square footage that's developed is not going to work. However, you can also see that we've had a lot of use of the training rooms, a lot of use of the conference rooms. We've been able to document that, so it shows you the kind of activity that's happening there. We will be hosting the San Angelo Art Walk, and that really SBDC is taking the lead there. But I think that's a good opportunity to help market the building and the services that are available there. So SBDC will be taking that lead. We also are utilizing ASU students. We do have some interns there. You'll be seeing another intern at no cost to us that'll start in February. We have a lot of work that I'd like to pursue, a lot of work of research and analysis, and I'd like to utilize those students to help conduct a lot of that work. In my opinion, we need to be ready for business and industry, and there's a lot of questions that we're asked, and we really don't have the analysis, and I'd like to have that information on hand, readily available for any kind of industry. The next goal had to do with the program and criteria development for CBCED and Costa DC, and then it also incorporated ensuring that the incentives include a requirement that projected economic and fiscal return from assistance outweighing any public costs, and that it would help stimulate. Stipulate that tax abatement will be selectively considered for those projects deemed to be of the most significant value. The economic impact tool, I can tell you, has come in very, very handy to us. While you're seeing some of this activity and we have not had some announcements, we do have companies that want to remain below the radar. They don't want a press release, they don't want an announcement. And so I can point to you, and I think I've showed, Tommy was in the office the other day, and I had 3 files that I would now consider closed or inactive, that either communications have stopped or we've helped to locate in the city without the use of any incentives, but helping just to facilitate the location. While the hard copy looks like this, our electronic copy is very significant. But the point is, there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes and that you're unaware of, and I think we're okay. Somebody's got to move around. But a lot of that is happening. We do a lot of what-if analysis, a lot of discussion with these prospects. These tools have come in very handy. We can really determine what our rate of return is going to be, our rate of our payback, and they have come in very, very, very handy. In fact, I would venture to say that one of the companies that I'm going to now turn to inactive did not want to pursue the project because of our negotiation. And in fact, if our analysis showed that we required a little bit more time of operation to recuperate our investment, and they weren't willing to do that, then we just didn't have an agreement. So it's been very, very effective for us. I think we've incorporated the return on investment in our contracts. We're adhering to that. When we look at tax abatements and any other incentives, we totally utilize that economic impact tool. It's been very effective for us. I'll talk more about that in my organizational goals. The next one had to do with assisting Shannon Health, San Angelo Community Medical Center, Baptist Memorial, and other regional healthcare facilities with needed training programs and workforce recruitment. The lead there is Contra Valley Workforce Development. We had an item there of to do assist ASU to secure allied health building. I am not sure what that entails. I saw the chamber issued a resolution in support of that facility, and I need to do more exploration, but I do see that the Contra Valley Workforce Development Board has been working to try to incorporate some additional training. You can see they've been very busy. Let me state this, perhaps the most difficult part of these priority goals, you notice that we are the lead on some goals, but the challenge is having kind of herding the cat, so to speak, trying to retrieve this information on a monthly basis. That is probably the most difficult portion of this, although, we are the lead agency. We helped to develop the strategic plan. These partners were involved. I think the most challenging part is making sure that I receive the information of their activities. It's a good way to hold them accountable. It also holds me accountable as well, but I'm going to be seeking some additional software to help me help them and help each other in the future. The next goal, identify mutually beneficial industry supply chain opportunities to market in partnership with cities in Mexico's Maquiladora region. This is the lead here is the Chamber of Commerce. Again, I've had a discussion with Phil about this goal, and he is in total agreement. As you can tell, it is very weak in terms of the status and activity. I believe, and he agreed, that we need to do more research, more analysis, so that we can determine how we can fill some gaps in that type of industry. If we have export of goods and movement as Tommy was saying, logistics and supply chain, we need to find out more about what's happening there. And so I've had a discussion, including perhaps a trade mission. There were in the old days, I need to follow up on this, but I did talk to Phil, and he's familiar with it. U.S. Department of Commerce would host trade missions where you'd guarantee a local business specific meetings, specific contacts. In other words, you're doing business with your counterpart. If you're seeking a specific supply or a resource, or you're able to provide that, and they match you up, but we guarantee at least 5 different meetings. So anyway, that's something that I'd like for them to pursue, and Phil is on board with this. Then lastly, work closely with Ports to Plains, state, local governments, and U.S. Mexican companies to identify infrastructure deficiencies and establish cross-border partnerships to finance and constructing necessary improvements. You see the activity there. It's mainly at Ports to Plains. I'm relying a lot on our representatives, that are our board members, and the local representatives to take the lead there. While the Ports to Plains is important and the initiative has merit in terms of one corridor from Canada to Mexico, and if we can benefit from it, and again, if we can help facilitate and help be a part of it, we will do that, but I don't believe we should take the lead, so I will totally utilize those representatives. Any questions on those priority goals? Any new ones that you want me to explore on those? Those came out of the original strategic plan that was done back in early 2012.
I'm good. You guys?
I think we're on a good track.
Okay. Proceed.
All right. Grab you a cup of coffee.
You take care.
All right. This one has to do with our organizational priorities. You may recall that that I listed these as items that I wanted to pursue in terms of the organization. It does involve, the administration portion of it, being good stewards and looking at what is best use and efficiency. And you may have seen as we've progressed throughout the year that we've made some improvements to some of the presentations that are being presented to the board. In fact, we've moved some of those presentations to consent, and some of those presentations are now going to be reporting to you quarterly. In fact, what you saw today was Rebecca providing the quarterly presentation. Normally, those reports are on consent. If it's the board's desire and you like that, we will continue to pursue that. As part of the contract, you have Michael Looney who provides quarterly reports. Also, Bob Salas, as part of the contract, will provide quarterly reports. I believe that those who are receiving funding need to provide a report as well. We can move those routine quarterly reports to consent, such as the Chamber of Commerce, such as affordable housing, and have them present either once a year to give you a full view. If you believe that is something you'd like to pursue, we can do that to make your board meetings more efficient. It's something to look at, something to talk about. Board liaison, I have been working with the board members on a regular basis. I love the communication that I receive from you, the feedback and your questions. I believe that you provide good input. I have a good diverse group of board members, and I want to utilize you more. So moving into the upcoming months, we do want to embark on some new initiatives. I've asked Michael to include you on the business-to-business campaign. I've asked Bob to also include you into some of the activities. Nora, in working with CVCD, is working with her board members as we begin looking at those bylaws, as the contracts that we have with our business incubator clients. And so we are wanting to utilize the board members more. I believe in that because I think we have a good product, and I believe that our product in terms of the business retention program and incentive policy turned out to be a good quality product because of your involvement. So I hopefully y'all are with me and agree with me, and I really want to utilize you much more moving forward. In terms of facilitating recruitment, let me not go past the business retention expansion program. That has led to, I've already mentioned in my the prior goals, that has led to some good accomplishments. We've had some sales at the industrial park. We've also had stage 2 training. I've mentioned that with Small Business Development Center. We've had three folks that have taken advantage of that. And then we are pursuing this $75,000 partnership, leveraging those dollars to help provide training for demand occupations. We do have a committee that's working on that. That's another great outcome of the partnership that we have developed between us. So it's a workforce development initiative, and it's working very, very well. Going back to facilitating recruitment, we worked with one company that's led to one sale of property in the industrial park. We've also helped to locate 2 other companies within the city. And we'll continue to do more of that. I feel we play a big role in that. We want to be able to be the handoff, but we do intend to be more involved in some of the activities that that Michael Looney is going to be involved in. I do want to make sure that we have those call trips, calling on companies outside the region, outside the state, in the U.S. and perhaps international. So we do want to play a role in that. As I mentioned to you, in terms of executing the strategic planning priorities, that has been a challenge. Trying to retrieve that information from the partners. They're all very good to work with, but we're all very busy people. I would like to explore some software that will help us project manage I do a lot of project management that'll provide access not only to the board members but also to our partners. When we do receive a project, identify a project, that means a company that we're working with, and everybody can determine the status of the project, can determine who's communicated with the prospect, and so that is something that I'm going to be pursuing in the future, and I'll bring it forth to you. There is a program out there, but and it's being used by Angelo State University. I want to fully vet that. I also want to talk to other economic development organizations that are using it to make sure that how well it's working. And if it doesn't work, then we'll do something different. The management of the BRC, that is going well. We have found some issues there. You've seen that we've acquired some janitorial services there. If you've driven by there, we painted the fence and we painted the backside of the building. Those were incomplete items from the BRC project. We do get a lot of feedback from the clients that utilize the facility. In fact, we've held a meeting with those clients in the business factory to get their input about how things are going, where they're going well, how can we improve, what's not going right. When we get to the discussion of the budget, I want to talk to you more about some capital improvements, but that is going well. There is a need for some capital improvements, and I'll discuss that later as we move into the budget. Staff development, I think we've all been pursuing those conferences and training. And I'm very proud, I failed to mention, it may be somewhere else in this document, but every one of our board members has taken the training, including the Public Information Act training and the Open Records training, so I'm very proud of the fact that we've got every one of our board members trained, and that has been going very well. Internal control policies. The first act that we did was making sure that we adhere to our bylaws. Our city clerk is now the acting secretary. They did help update some of the information that needed to go back to the Secretary of State. We've improved our check signing and disbursement process, and it's all for efficiency purposes. I do want to look at the bylaws, and I would like to create a subcommittee and let us review that and let the board review that, and perhaps it's time to review that. And it was a goal that I had set. I haven't been able to accomplish it, but I am going to pursue that. And so I'll be calling on y'all. The industrial park incentive guidelines is also part of a review that I'd like to conduct. So I'll utilize you for both of those. Industrial park covenants, that is something we'd like to pursue. In the RFI, that's going to be accomplished. We want to look at those setbacks, addressing the type of building, the landscaping, the parking, sign control. That's not in there right now, so we really need to take a look at that. What was not mentioned in the professional services agreement is I've asked in that professional services agreement that we have, as they're coming in to provide updates and take input, and I've asked that they do that with some board members present, and so I'll be calling you to participate in some of those meetings, and I'll have them come before you to give you an update as well at the proper time. Project management, we've instituted some forms and some processes to help us project manage. Again, there is some software that I'd like to pursue that will help us improve that process. You saw the compliance review. We have been evaluating that. The compliance review was very effective for us. I think it was needed. It's been, who knows when the last time it was done. You saw the results of that. That helped us create these checklists that I kind of talked about when you asked about how will we hold the professional services accountable. We use the performance measures, a checklist, before payment. And so we do that with every contract, which is sort of amusing to me, but because we do get some questions, but it's a necessary evil. You know, if you're looking at for audit purposes, we need it, and it's working. Accounting and finance has been great. We meet with them on a monthly basis. You can see that we've made some improvements to accounting and finance. We've now moved into software process to instead of manual check writing. You may remember that we also had a method of how we signed those checks. We changed that, but they've been great to work with. I'm looking forward to working with them to determine the per unit cost, as we talked about in terms of the staff services contract. Hopefully we'll be moving. We're discussing that now. We'll be moving to try to have something for you perhaps in March or April. Inventory. You notice that category is sort of weak. We have taken inventory, but I'm not happy with my efforts in terms of having that completed and having a much more formal document in-house. But I will be moving forward to get that done. There's just so much delineation that needs to be made, because we do have SBDC and we do share some equipment and the business factory and CVCD, and so I need to really work on that. In fact, Nora's going to help on that. She's done a lot of it already, but we're really going to try to hone in on that much more closely. I've already talked about the contract review. Because of it, we were able to revise and tweak our process. I've already talked about the sales tax training that the board has taken. We did move from 2 meetings a month to 1 meeting a month for efficiency purposes. I hope that you're pleased with that. I know we are. I think in terms of time savings, it also helped our partners. Our partners were able to save time as well, and they could focus on what they need to do for us as well. Community, I believe in the community. We're always very responsive to any request for information, any requests for interviews, and we do work very closely with the media and our partners as they need information. Again, I've talked about the partnership and how that is going. The last partner meeting, we did have the governor's office. In fact, that was something I was going to share with you all, that my biggest disappointment was not being able to solidify having the governor's office and the Texas Department of Ag in those meetings, including the state controller's office. But for whatever reason, we were able to have the governor's office there in the January meeting, and I'm looking forward to having them be being a part of those meetings. I've already talked about the tools needed, how the economic impact tool has assisted us. I cannot tell you how pleased we are with that. We can do a lot of what-if scenarios, and there's minimal administration on our part. You saw what we did during the BREP economic policy development, but in terms of updates, all I have to do is make a phone call and say to the vendor, have you made the updates, because the taxing entities have approved their tax rates. He does it. It is really customized for San Angelo. There are some features in there that no other economic development corporation has. One of the features that we incorporated was when we input a NAICS code, we want to make sure that it is a NAICS code that we're targeting that can benefit according to our guidelines, and the impact tool will tell us immediately. However, I can use that for a different kind of business. For example, if they're not looking for incentives, but they are looking for some kind of city assistance, it does mean jobs, it does mean a tax base, but I can utilize that tool to say, hey, if we participate in this project, this is the value of this project, this is the return based on waiving the fees or what have you. But so it's been very effective for us. I'm a believer in that, and I think Michael Dane will tell you, if he's still back there, that is something we've never had, but is very effective for us.
Sneaking out.
Pardon me?
He's sneaking out.
Oh, he's sneaking out.
He just waited up. Oh. Good morning, Michael.
The accounting software, we did purchase accounting software for accounting. It helps them produce their financials more efficiently. They were using an outdated system, but they needed it for the work that they do for us. Fact sheets, I have not had to utilize those fact sheets. It is something that I believe in the event that we do have some projects that we announce, projects that we're working on. It's mainly a FAQ type of tool that I do want to utilize for those inquiry minds and the media and so forth. The awareness, the certification process has been a very good project for us. I think it's going to yield what we have been looking for in terms of some strength in terms of being able to have something that no other community will have. I believe if we press on at the rate that we're going, we may be the first one in the state to have this certification. I think there was only one more community that was pursuing this. I'm excited about what that means in terms of the studies, what it means in terms of the covenants. I think a business that's looking to locate can have some assurance. I mean, we all look for that. We want some assurance. We want the security, and I think they're going to have they can ensure that they'll have an asset that they purchase that will appraise in value moving forward, and they can be pleased in the location that they will receive from the industrial park. We're getting a lot of inquiries about that, and so I'm excited about that aspect. Any questions so far?
Two, and I don't know when to ask them, so I'll ask them now.
Sure.
I'm not sure today is the best time, because I think we need to have all our board members here. But at what point, and I guess in what setting, do we have this conversation about what's a local business? When's the best time? Is that an agenda item that we just create?
What I would like to do, Tommy, is I would like to set up a committee, if that's okay with you, because here are some items that I want to talk about. Maybe this will help clarify, and if not, maybe it'll spark some additional questions from you. If I move into the finance disbursement policy, which is item number 4. Oops. We have an issue there. For example, we can only approve, that staff can only approve expenses up to $1,000, and so we can write a check for those items. Anything above $1,000 has to come to the board for your approval, and if you approve it, we mail out the check. However, we do have contracts with that we have approved in essence by providing the funding and for a specific project. Case in point, the air service marketing project. We approve that. We approve the funding for that. The work is performed. They project manage that. They send us an invoice. I verify that it meets our requirements, and I bring it before the board for payment. Paul Ann, Smith Boulevard. The Red Arroyo is another project. Usually those invoices are above $1,000, and so if the board wants to pursue, I'd like to have that discussion in a committee meeting and determine whether it's something that we should pursue. Vendors may may want to receive the payment, on a much more timely basis. If the documentation does not come to me with the right justification, I have to send it back to that department. So that delays the payment. And if it's past the board meeting date, then it's going to have to wait till the following board meeting. So it's something that I'd like to discuss with the board. If you feel that that because you approved the contract, that those payments of those invoices can be made by the administrator, and you're comfortable with that, as long as the justification is made, then we'll have to change the financial disbursement policy to reflect that and have a resolution. But it's a discussion that I'd like to have in more detail with the board. And this is just kind of teeing it up for discussion, just like you're teeing up your question. Perhaps in the review of the bylaws, in the review of the incentives, in those policies, perhaps that is, or we may be able to discover there's a policy that we'll need to determine what constitutes a local business, and so we can have that discussion and thoroughly vet it out and bring it to the board for further discussion and their approval. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Budget. The board asked that we start talking about the budget early on in the process. We don't want to wait and follow the timeline that the city has. We want to get ahead of it, and I agree with that. So I put this here as a tickler. I'd like to come back. I'd like for you to think about this, and if there are items that you want to see in the budget, if there's a discussion that you want to have, I can start bringing to you the board worksheet, and we can have another work session if you want to. But or we can have a committee to start talking about that, and then bringing it to the board and let them discuss it. And as we're moving forward, since we're talking about the budget, I'd like for us to pursue some capital improvements. Every entity usually has a capital improvement plan. So we know that there are items within the facility that depreciate and are going to be needing to be replaced. This floor, the carpet that we have at the BRC, the air conditioning system, the roof, the water heater, those kind of items need some study, and I'd like to incorporate that as part of our capital improvement plan, so that we can plan ahead and have those expenses ready and plan for to make those expenses. In addition, I would like the board, and it may be that we look at a committee that studies this capital improvement plan, but I really want to utilize, so what we've done this year is sort of regrouped the teams. We've had some really good successes at the programs and stuff that we wanted to pursue. But as we did that, we've discovered that there are other needs and other opportunities for us. The airport, in my opinion, is underutilized. I believe that the airport, we can team up with the airport, and it may be that this board may want to consider a potential facility over there that will help attract another aircraft service company. I believe that we can play a role at the airport to help continue to develop that airport, those jobs that are being created, that specific sector. So in my opinion, I think it's a discussion that we need to have. I'd also like for us to look at the potential of a specific capital project in the downtown. The BRC has been good in terms of an economic activity, but I believe that one of the lacking in the downtown is an employment center. It's something that I've said since I've got here in talking to Dale. I really believe that we need an employment center so that the local businesses benefit in the downtown during the week, and obviously, if those that live in the downtown can help sustain the downtown during the weekend, but I do believe that we can recruit a company. So I would like to embark on the idea of how we can affect whether we can bring a headquarters or an employer and accomplish that in the downtown, help create more economic vitality. These are just ideas. This is just brainstorming. These are just thoughts that I have, and I would welcome the discussion in the subcommittee, and we can shoot them down. But it's going along in the spirit of what I said. I really believe that we need to elevate ourselves to be more effective, to take a role in influencing the creation of jobs and economic activity in our community. Lastly, while we are looking at the study, the AEP certification process, I do believe that we ought to give some thought to a facility, a building, a spec building in the industrial park. And we can talk more about what that looks like, whether it's just a shell and just the four walls, and we can finish it out later. But I believe that we need to help create, set the tone for that park, create the aesthetics for that park. And so if it means a tilt-up building that looks well and is appealing to a corporate headquarters or appealing to multiple businesses that we can put in there, because it is a industrial and business park, that is something that we ought to pursue. So these are just thoughts that I have. I welcome any comments, but I put this here as just sort of a work session to hear your input and your feedback, and we can come back to the board. But I would like to pursue, with the permission of the board, pursue some subcommittees and have that discussion. It's worked so far. And,
I think those will work. Your last item there, the capital improvements, we discussed yesterday, I do think is very important, because, even like with the apartment buildings, you've got, I set aside a monthly amount for fixing stuff, and it's we got to have it, and it was big and as nice a facility as we have. I would like to see us maintain that so that we continue the attraction of the VRC. So I'm very glad to see that that's going to be considered. Thank you for doing that.
I was going to say, at some point too, we've kind of talked around it the last couple of meetings. It really didn't come out today so much, but I'd like to have, if it may be appropriate during our budget discussion, but our outside legal counsel line item in our budget. I'd like to talk about that more thoroughly and see if we expand that line item, and just see what the board's thoughts are on that as well. I don't know that needs to be a committee discussion. That probably needs to be a whole board discussion, unless you can work it in one of your other committees. That.
Okay.
Other comments?
When you were talking about getting that building over there at the office park, I think that's a great idea. When we went to that workshop, some other cities, what they had done, they had purchased a building and then leased it afterwards, just to kind of spur some economic growth where they didn't have it. So
yeah,
I think that's a good direction.
I think that at the airport too.
Yep.
Because we built that we built that hangar out there.
If we can ever get the airport completed.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
God almighty.
John?
I don't have anything to add at this point.
All right.
You look like you want to say something, Director.
I was sitting here thinking about what that building is gonna look like.
It's gonna be purty.
And I think it needs to be a drawer, to draw a business.
Well, I appreciate, I really do appreciate your leadership. You've been great to work with, and you have some great ideas, and you know, I will credit what we've been able to accomplish to your leadership and your hands-on. I believe we've got a proactive board, and it's not a rubber stamp board. But anyway, I appreciate your work and what you do. I mean that.
All right.
We appreciate you and all the staff.
Thank you. Other than that, that's all I have.
Motion of the day.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank y'all.